Hello, and welcome back to the Film Library, a Kanopy podcast. I'm Kristy Puchko, entertainment editor at Mashable.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo, film lover, horror junkie, and the guy who insists that Halloween is a month-long holiday.
This week, we're cranking up the fog machines, lighting the jack-o'-lanterns, and diving into the dark heart of horror movies for Halloween.
We're diving into a lineup full of slow burn tension, international terror, and underrated cult gems. It's all about the kinds of horror movies that keep you glued to the screen, even when you're peeking through your fingers.
And we should say up front, this is hands down our favorite time of year. Horror movies are our comfort food, so this episode felt like Christmas morning for us.
Exactly. If I'm being honest, the hardest part of prepping for this was just deciding what not to include. Kanopy's horror library is just stacked. There's so many great movies, and whittling it down to just a handful was kind of brutal for me.
Yeah, we both had long lists and some heartbreaking cuts, but the movies we landed on have a pretty wide range. Some of these are movies that make you scream, some movies that make you laugh nervously. And, you know, some are the ones that just like linger in your head long after the credits have rolled.
And the best part is you can stream them all right now on Kanopy. No haunted VHS tapes required.
So lock the doors, grab your popcorn, with or without garlic, and get ready for our Fright Fest of horror films.
So now before we get into all of our fright-filled picks, Kristy, I got to ask you something to kick things off here. Do you have a go-to Halloween movie ritual that's a must-watch every year?
I do. It is a more modern thing because it's not a very old movie. But I love the Fear Street trilogy that Netflix has.
So good.
So much. Like when that came out, it was like the summer. And I watched them all. I was obsessed. I got to talk to the filmmaker. I did those so hard. I got to talk to R.L. Stine about them. Not then, but recently because Prom Queen came out. Not as into Prom Queen. But like this trilogy, I love it so much that like my partner and I set aside a day every spooky season. And we're like, today's the day. And we like buckle down, we get our snacks ready, cuddle on the couch, and just watch the witchy awesomeness that is the Fear Street trilogy.
I should do that because those were so much fun. I haven't seen them since they first dropped, and I had such a fun month watching all of those.
I love them. They're so good. I mean, like, one, I was a Fear Street kid, but two, like, the 90s goodness of the first one is just, Murder Me in a Spencer's Gifts.
It did.
It's B. Dalton.
It definitely scratched, like, the goosebumps itch that I constantly have. The fierce, that 90s, like, I was so into it, and I loved even when they went back in time, little Salem action, Massachusetts guy here, so that was cool, too. Mine's probably kind of boring, but I do make sure every Halloween on the actual day that I do watch Halloween. And since 2018, I know you have to. And since 2018, I've added on that I jump right into that sequel and just ignore the rest of them. So I do a back-to-back, but I also have to make sure I watch Trick or Treat every 30. I usually do that October 30th, and Halloween is the 31st.
I definitely do watch Trick or Treat every year, and then Krampus at Christmas.
I've got
same filmmaker for those who are like, what is she like? Trick or Treat and then Krampus. These are my holidays.
It's so much fun, and my son's named Sam, and I don't know if I remembered at the time that I was doing that, but between Little Sam and Trick or Treat and Samuel Loomis and Halloween, I've just got all the Sams at Halloween time. So I think it was self-consciously we picked that name because of that.
You're like, Sam Win.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. I love that. I love that we got our like Halloween vibes going. So I'm going to dive in with my first pick, which is The Rental. And as a title, not very scary. It's from 2020, and it's actually Dave Franco's directorial debut. And it stars Dan Stevens and his wife, meaning Dave Franco's wife, Alison Brie, and Sheila Vand, and Jeremy Allen White, who we all now know as the Emmy winner of The Bear. This time he was more known for Shameless. But it is home invasion horror, which, that gets me. Me man, this movie gave me nightmares. The concept is four friends, like two couples, go on a weekend getaway to like a little Airbnb, and it's like a little remote area, a thing I won't do because I watch too many horror movies. But it starts off with like, there's a weird guy that like introduces them to the house, and he's kind of like rude in a way that you're like, what's going on here? And then they find a camera in the shower, which is like peak Airbnb nightmare. And then a killer shows up and starts picking him off. And it is like playing with slasher tropes, but not in the typical way, because it also becomes very much about these relationships and like who can you trust. So deeply, deeply scary. Highly recommend. And I am not a person prone to nightmares. This one, I absolutely had nightmares of what happened in this movie. This was one that really like shook me up and got me excited. And like, yeah, it's like a neat little, like a gnarly little indie that is very much about relationships and psychological tension. Yeah, if you want to watch something that's going to make you want to turn the lights on and maybe check your shower head, The Rental.
I'm with you on that. The home invasion stuff. Like, I saw The Strangers, not these new ones they're making, but that original one, and that messed me up. I saw that in high school in the movie theater. It messed me up for a little while, and I haven't seen The Rental, so I need to add it to my watch list. It sounds kind of like, if you've never seen The Invitation from 2015,
I
that's another
have.
really. You were giving me vibes of that, which is like that little indie, not so much home invasion, but
Yeah. No, I get
uh,
what you mean. This is like it's playing by different rules and I like that. It's
yeah.
funny you mentioned The Strangers. That is I never stopped that movie, but I didn't watch it for years because the trailer scared me so bad
Oh yeah.
that I didn't watch it until I think last year when the new ones came out. And I was like, I guess I should watch this.
For my first pick, this is also a more recent movie. Actually came out in 2024, and I picked Immaculate, which is directed by Michael Moen, stars Sydney Sweeney. And shout out to Michael. I actually watched this movie first, and I was like, this is super cool. And I think I posted about it. And then he was like, hey, you think my movie's super cool? I watch your YouTube channel and I collect movies too. So we actually like kind of became friends from this movie. And we've met up a couple times. Very cool guy, but he made a great movie that I really loved in this weird time period when a bunch of movies about nuns having horrific things happen to them was going on. His was the first though. But it's religious horror, it's psychological thriller, it's definitely slow burn. It's a really beautiful movie. Like, they shot all this stuff on site in Italy, because Sydney Sweeney, she stars as Cecilia. She's this young nun. She joins a convent in the Italian countryside, and it's beautiful churches, like everything you'd imagine in Italy. The massive churches, all the beautiful architecture. I mean, it's just looking at the movie is a lot of fun. But as you can imagine, quickly the serenity, the holiness of it all sort of starts to crack, and we uncover some dark secrets. And, Cecilia actually becomes pregnant, and she doesn't know how. She's a virgin. She doesn't know how she's pregnant, how she's carrying a baby. And there's something deeply sinister going on behind all that, which I won't spoil, but it obviously plays heavily into like the Immaculate Conception and the exploitation of faith and a lot of stuff, women's health care, and how, there's a lot of allegories
Bodily
and metaphors
autonomy.
in this. Bodily autonomy. Yes, there's a whole lot in this movie. And I will say, make sure you watch it, like, turn the lights off, because a lot of it's like candle lit, and, it's really dark and creepy and has that slow burn tension. But Sydney Sweeney is actually really great in this. I'm not always the biggest like Sydney Sweeney fan when it comes to her acting, but she was really good in this movie. I think it's one of her better performances. She really carries it. And it has a lot of throwbacks to, like, if you love the Giallo films and you love like that 70s, 80s Italian horror, you're going to feel a lot of that here, which is why I really enjoyed it. I later found out Michael, who directed this, had never even seen Suspiria, but it was giving me a lot of Suspiria vibes. I couldn't believe it when he told me he hadn't seen it yet. I gave him it when we met up, but it feels like that. It feels like that Italian horror, and it's got quite the ending, controversial ending. I would say some people say it went too far. Some people would say it didn't go far enough, and it could have gone further. I think, wait and see. It's brutal. It's definitely a brutal ending. Don't want to spoil anything though, because it does have a lot of twists and turns. Very beautiful movie, and I would recommend it, especially if you've seen like the first Omen and you watch the other kind of bigger movies that came out. This one was a little bit smaller, but it's really beautiful. I think it's really well done.
I love that. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Immaculate. I was raised Roman Catholic. Immaculate had a lot of very beautiful iconography and things, and some
Oh
smart
yeah.
uses of
There's some shots in that are just like, I still think like iconic shots. I think that.
Yeah. Oh, truly gorgeous. Like really, they use the iconography very smartly, I think.
Yeah.
I want to pivot hard. This is not a religious movie. It's just another. My tactic for this was really like, what's a movie that made me very upset?
That's fair.
And so, Train to Busan from 2016, from director Yong Sang-ho. It is who. By the time I saw this, people were already going crazy for it and being like, oh my God, you have to see Train to Busan. You have to see Train to Busan. So I watched it at home, which is, I will say, unusual. I'm a film critic. I see a lot of stuff ahead of time, whatever. I watched it at home by myself as like a casual night in. I like ordered food, was having a kind of night to myself to like relax.
Because not the movie for that.
No, this is the thing, right? Like we were talking about this, like when I say like horror movies are my comfort watch, over the weekend I was really stressed out. I put on Zodiac. Like this is just how I operate. So I was like, this will be fun. Be a fun zombie movie. Oh my God. Oh my God. So Train to Busan, as the title implies, is about a zombie outbreak that happens on a high-speed train in South Korea. And specifically, you start by following this like workaholic dad who has a young daughter that he is taking to his, I forget if it's divorced or estranged wife in Seoul. He is basically in that place of being like, I have work to do and I don't have time for my daughter. And this adorable little girl's just like, spend time with me. And then they get on this train and zombies attack. Well, like, actually, okay, I should say, it's like one zombie gets onto the train right as the doors are closing. And so you as an audience member are like, oh no. Because you know where that's going to go. But he's like on the train. And I love this because to me, it also reminds me of one of my favorite New York movies, which is The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the original, where you get to know all these like different people in different walks of life. There's like a baseball team, and there's little old ladies, and like there's like a couple that's like adorable and a very like, I'm a tough guy and she's my lady way. Like, great. And obviously, as the infection starts to spread, they are trying, like, some of them are trying to protect each other. Some of them are too scared and only think of themselves. And so you kind of get this really great ensemble of all these things going on, but you're really mostly focused on this father and daughter, and this father who very intensely realizes his priority should be his kid, period. And so it becomes a very intense metaphor in that way. But like, if you're not into metaphor, it's just scary. Like the way these zombies perform, we're not talking Romero like rah, zombies, which no shade against those. I love a classic Romero zombie. But these zombies, it's not just that they run, it's that their bodies move in ways that you're like, oh, that doesn't have bones. Like, and not in like a rubbery CGI way. It's like they use contortionists and stuff. So the way these people's bodies move looks painful to us, but the fact that they're not reacting that way is just deeply unsettling. And then there's a sequence involving an escalator that I think of every time I'm on an escalator.
How could you not?
I'll just say that. And then, in New York, we have some real long escalators. Like, yep. Well, it's a very long time to be like, I remember that scene of that movie, and just in your head try to think how you'd get out of it and think, you're not a physically fit person. You would be in trouble. So, like, that's part of what I love about this movie is I am definitely the person that watches a movie and thinks I could outsmart it. Because, like, the other day, my partner and I were watching, actually, it's something I'm going to get to soon. But we're watching this movie, and I was like, if you were in this situation, what would you do? And his response was like, I would never be in this situation. I would have never gotten to this location in the first place. And, like, I can't do that with Train to Busan because I ride the subway all the time. So, like, deeply just, what a nightmare. And what's cool, like, one, you can watch Train to Busan and dig in. And if you haven't seen it before, what a time. Go see it now. And if you have seen it before, always a great time to rewatch it. Very scary movie. But also, there's a whole trilogy that they ended up making, including Seoul Station, which is a prequel, and Peninsula, which is set like many years after Train to Busan. And they're all on Kanopy. So you can check it out and really get the full experience of a very unique vision of zombies. Like, man, these zombies, they hit different.
No, they do. Like literally hit different, move different. Yeah, it's like nothing I'd ever seen before when I first saw it. And I haven't seen it since having my own kids, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to go back and do it again because there's some tough stuff.
No, totally. Again, child free.
Well, I will tell you one movie I don't think I will ever show my kids. I think they need to be a solid 21 to watch this movie.
Ooh.
I don't even think 17 or 18 cuts it, at least not with me. But it's called Baskin. It's from 2015, so it's about 10 years old now. It's a Turkish horror film directed by Jean Evernal. And this one really stuck with me because it is like one of the most surreal, like imagine you're having a nightmare and somebody put it on film. Like that is what this feels like. So the plot is like it starts so innocently. Like it's just a bunch of police officers and like they're kind of getting into the dynamics of the group and like that's a bad guy. Like here's the good cop, here's the bad cop, like here's the real jerk, like all this different stuff. But then they get this call, a distress call, and it ends up coming from an abandoned building. So when they show up, there's nobody there, but they're like, we got to go in anyway. Somebody called, and they get there, and it literally turns into like some movies say, like, oh, this movie is a descent into hell. Like, no, that like literally happens in this movie. They sort of cross this weird barrier into hell, and they stumble into this cult ritual that is absolutely insane. The practical effects in this, it's grotesque. You mentioned like the zombies trying to be something, like it is grotesque. Things should not move this way. A lot of twisted stuff. There are rooms that are covered in blood, completely drenched, like floor to ceiling. A lot of surreal, violent imagery. It's literally like a waking nightmare. And even some of the cast in this, like they found some people that have the most unforgettable, just like unique characteristics, and we're like, you're gonna be in this movie, and just like we're gonna cover you in blood and like practical effects, and just make you like this thing you've never seen before, which is wild. Like they don't even need to say anything, just being there is enough. But it really just goes for it. Like I think that's what I was shocked. People have told me, watch this movie, like it's nuts. It's one of the craziest foreign horror movies you'll ever see. And I was like, okay, I've seen a lot of stuff. Like this movie truly goes for, like I can't imagine it got a rating. If it did, it was a very hard R. I'd have to look it up, but it's like Clive Barker, Dario Argento, but through this like lens of, you know, this guy, he made a short film first and he turned it into this, and you can clear like he just like was like, I'm gonna do this. Like I do not care about ratings boards and the commercial viability of this, and like, is this gonna play? He's just like, I'm going for it. I'm gonna be brutal, shocking, but it's like strangely kind of fascinating, and like it puts you in a little bit of a trance almost when they're doing this cult ritual. Like you get really sucked in. So definitely not for the faint of heart. This is a pretty hardcore horror movie, but one that has stuck with me. I watched it probably 5 years ago, and then I watched it a couple years ago, and then I watched it again to prep for this episode, and it's like a trip into another dimension, and that dimension unfortunately is like what everyone's picture of hell is, and it is the most brutal. It's, you know, there's nobody just like rolling a rock up a hill and then
Sure.
it falls back down. Like, no, this is like the stuff they scared you about in Sunday school. Like, yeah, this is where you all are going to end up. That's it. So I think it's essential for horror fans to check it out because it is wild, but it is definitely not like a, yeah, I like horror movies, like, let me put this on. No, like I'd work your way up to Baskin.
I haven't seen that one, so I'll put that on my list for spooky season. I'll have to catch up on that.
It is nutty.
My final pick is one that I love. I've watched it several times since it's come out, and that's kind of impressive because it only came out in 2024, which feels crazy because I've definitely watched it a bunch since then. But it's called Oddity. It's directed by Damien McCarthy, and it was a movie that I discovered on the film festival circuit, and I fell for super hard immediately. And it's like, what's cool about it is Damien he makes short films. He made Caveat, which is a like really weird little Shudder release that I was like obsessed with because like, he tells these stories that like are set in such a real beginning that like, when they get weird, it hits so hard. And in this one, he's blending all these kind of genre elements to make his own kind of vibe. And it's an Irish folklore horror movie, but it's also kind of a slasher movie, but it's also kind of a psychological thriller. But it starts off, and this is what I was talking about with my partner and I, it starts off with this scenario that like 5 minutes in, I couldn't breathe. This is not a spoiler because it's literally how the movie starts, but
Yeah.
like this woman is home alone in her very remote location, which strike
Such a
one.
cool house too.
It's a beautiful
It is
house.
such a cool house.
Not one I would ever live
No,
in.
not for me, but very cool.
Far too prone to spookiness. But she lives in this very remote house. Her husband's working that night, and she goes out to her car to get something, comes back, and as soon as she shuts the door, there's a knock behind her. Now remember, she lives in the middle of the nowhere. She was just outside. And she opens the like little metal door slat because it's Ireland and buildings are very old and have that in this particular part of Ireland. And there is a man who is very upset and is staring at her with one good eye and one very strangely drawn glass eye. And he says, "You have to get out of the house. Someone's in there with you." And he won't leave because he says he's concerned for her. But she didn't see anybody go into the house. And this guy certainly doesn't seem well. So what do? And she can't call anybody because there's only one spot in this entire house that has cell service, and it's the whole way upstairs in this one back corner, which they've already established. So, like, at that point, this movie had me by the throat because I was just like, there's not a good solution here. And then the movie jumps to like a year later, and you don't immediately know what happened, and there's a whole new set of characters, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. It is such a sensational movie because it's constantly playing with your expectations and asking you to piece things together. And like as you do, it's just creepier. And there's the thing in it called the Wooden Man, which I love so much. It's so upsetting on camera. It's just a giant wooden golem. And when they toured it for festivals, they brought the golem places so you could like see it and touch it and take pictures with it.
So
and
cool.
yeah, and then they brought it to Mashable. We had an interview with Damien where he was on Zoom, but I was with the Wooden Man. Man, that was like a day where
Smart
I
guy.
right? I was like, I don't know how, like there are days where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about my job. And I was like, this is very cool. But also I've seen the movie. This is very upsetting.
Yeah.
I don't love this. So yeah, check that out because it was a wild time, but the design is incredible. And like he has such an interesting approach to these things. And like I love folk horror, so it scratches that itch too. And just as a side corollary, if you're like, I also like folk horror, I'm gonna recommend as like a pairing. Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, A History of Folk Horror. It's from 2021. It is a documentary like movie, but it's like 5.5 hours. It's very long. But it's like, it talks about The Wicker Man, The Craft, Deliverance, Midsummer, and a bunch of more classic stuff that I will admit I was not familiar with. And it talks about the common thread that makes this a subgenre, but also like, why does this speak to us? And they talk to a ton of different people. It is an addictive thing. And so like, if you're like, I want to get into spooky season, but I don't want to be spooked just yet. Like maybe you're like easing in. I would say Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, which is also in Kanopy. And then you can dive into all these like Oddity and other folk horror movies and you'll like have a better understanding. And like, I'm very much like the Penn and Teller school of like, I want to know how the thing is done. I want to know how you make the thing. And then it just makes it more exciting for me because it's just, yeah. So yeah, I would say definitely watch Oddity. Definitely watch Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched. I need like promise. It does sound like a mantra, doesn't it? Say it with me. Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I feel like we cast a spell. I feel good about it. But whichever one you want to start with, I think they're both really terrific. And like, man, Oddity, I just keep rewatching, and every time I catch something else, and I get excited about it again. And if you watch his shorts or you watch his other films, things cross over, but it's not like in an Easter eggy way. It's that like you can see similar influences. So it's kind of cool because instead of it feeling like the Damien McCarthy horror universe, it's more like they're all in the same kind of slipstream of dreams.
Yeah. He's established his folklore and he's playing with that. But
yeah.
I do love Oddity. There's a scene, I guess it's not a spoiler, but there's a scene with a tent that was honestly, as somebody who's a hardcore horror fan, was one of the scary that got me so good. I I still remember the reaction I had to that. But I can't wait to see what he's got a movie coming out, I think, next year too that he's working on now. He's one of my favorites to keep an eye on. And
A tent, another thing I don't mess with. I've watched too many horror movies. You're not getting me in a tent. Sorry.
You're not getting me in a tent. I've seen Blair Witch. I've seen Oddity.
Right?
I've seen it
I've
all.
seen Weapons. There's no reason to be in a tent.
You should never be in a tent if you have a house. If you have a home, stay in the home. You do not need to go into a tent. I agree. See, these are the things you learn as horror fans. But
I like this just becoming a PSA of things I don't recommend.
listen, I agree with your partners. Like, I would not put myself in that situation.
Yeah, he was like, I would never have been in this house.
Exactly. That's what we learned from these movies. You just don't do certain things, and then these things can't happen to you.
I live in the city. Plenty of things could happen to me here, but I won't be trapped alone in a remote location.
Exactly. You got to learn from what you watch. But yeah, I second the documentary too. Excellent. And it will give you a watch list a mile long of stuff you didn't even know existed. That is all great. I got obsessed with folk horror too when I watched like The Witch and then Midsummer, and I was like, what is this? And I dove into that documentary soon after. I'm hooked. So highly recommend. But my last pick is a horror movie sequel, which already people are like, oh, it's probably bad, because a lot of them are. But I think that this is honestly one of the most underrated horror sequels, maybe one of the best ever made, and it's The Exorcist III. Now, if you've written the movie off, right, Exorcist 3, you're like, I saw The Exorcist, and then I watched The Exorcist 2, and The Exorcist 2 was bad, so I'm not watching The Exorcist 3. You can cut The Exorcist 2 right out of this. You could call this one The Exorcist 2 if you want to. It is a better sequel. Not even just like a better movie, but it is a better sequel that actually follows up the events of the first movie and makes some connections back to it. And the cool thing is, this movie was actually directed by William Peter Blatty, who wrote the original Exorcist novel. So he ended up directing this movie. He did not direct the first one, obviously, but now he's back. And this is 1990. So it's like, what is that, 17 years after The Exorcist, he comes back to direct a film. And this was his movie. So it could have easily been cash grab, sequel, big name, let's make another one. But like, it turns into this chilling, unsettling detective story with George C. Scott playing Lieutenant Kinderman. Like, he's the lead. I love George C. Scott, and he's amazing in this movie. And it becomes like this Silence of the Lambs, almost like serial killer thriller. Like, he's investigating all these murders that are connected to this Gemini killer who's supposedly long dead. He gets into a psychiatric hospital. They've got patient X here, just patient X, and he's played by Brad Dourif, who's also amazing. And this is one of his creepiest performances.
Big icon of horror on so many levels.
Right. So like, you've got George C. Scott, you got Brad Dourif, and so you know this is going to be solid. And they're bought in. Like, this isn't George C. Scott, like, I'll do a horror movie for a check. Like, he's in on this movie. And this patient X claims to be the Gemini killer who's supposed to be dead, but also seems to channel Father Karras, the priest from the first film. So it connects back to that. He's sort of channeling different people. And it's a little bit of slow burn. It's a little bit of detective. Like, it's not your most straightforward horror movie, but like, neither was The Exorcist. There's plenty that leads up to the actual horror. There's like a great story in all of this. And there's a lot of just like dialogue between George C. Scott and Brad Dourif, just kind of like him trying to figure out this guy's mentality, and like very like Clarice and Hannibal. Like, there's a lot of that. This came before that, if it's 1990, so maybe they stole from it a little bit. I don't know. But it also has, and I found out about this movie, shout out Bravo, 100 Scariest Movie Moments of All Time, which I binged as a kid every Halloween. This has probably one of the top 3, if not, some people say the greatest jump scare of all time. Like, not a cheap one, not telegraphed, not like, oh yeah, obviously we're going to get a jump scare. Like, it hits you out of nowhere, and it is one of the creepiest things that you'll ever see in a film. So don't write this off just because Exorcist 2 was bad. Like, if you like The Exorcist and you want it to go a little bit deeper into that lore, and you want to see George C. Scott and Brad Dourif just like go nuts and really dive into characters, this is great. Like, honestly, one of the best. If this was called something else and it wasn't The Exorcist 3, like, would probably be considered one of the best like horror kind of detective serial killer movies out there. Like, it's that good, and it mixes in some supernatural. But like, if you like Zodiac, like this is in that vein with a little more horror.
I don't have like a good reason for not having seen this. I just haven't seen this, but I'm
so
sold. I'm gonna check it out. That sounds really delicious and fun.
It is.
I think that might be a wrap on our Fright Fest spotlight. We hope your watch list is now full of chilling classics and eerie surprises, and maybe your own nightmare too.
We'll drop all our picks in the show notes and over on Kanopy's Letterboxd HQ account. If you want to stream any of these frightful favorites, just head to Kanopy.com. It's totally free with your library card or university login.
And be sure to subscribe to the Film Library so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you like this one, leave us a review, or better yet, tell us the scariest movie you've ever watched on Kanopy.
Yeah, was it like a haunted house classic, a slasher that made you sleep with the lights on? Maybe it's a psychological thriller that crawled under your skin. Drop your pick in the comments or tag us on social and let us know.
And you can always find me on Instagram. I'm at the Kristy Puchko. I'm also on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Just search Kristy Puchko, KristyPuchko.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, basically just on the internet. You can search my name, JeffRauseo.
And spooky season doesn't have to stop on November 1st. We'll keep our love of spooky, the strange, and the suspenseful going all year round.
So thanks for listening. And remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Thank you.